It's time to discuss the best units for the Sea Serpent Raid. Welcome back to Corky Gachas, and in this video, I'm going to be doing a tier list for the Sea Serpent Raid like I promised you guys, because I do understand that a lot of people are actually struggling with it. Before I begin, as usual, just a disclaimer, tier lists are subjective, although I do believe that I have a good understanding of the Sea Serpent Raid to make this tier list in the first place. So if you disagree with my rankings, definitely let me know in the comment section below. So first up, Kalawana, she's going to be an easy A tier, extremely good single target, one of the best in the game, and the follow-up can also help to kind of clear sturdiness factors, although ideally you'd want to use her ultimate when the enemy still has sturdiness factors or sturdiness layers, but in some cases you cannot help it. So extremely good DPS, single target DPS, what you really want for Sea Serpent Raid if you do not have the star options. Next is going to be Jessica. For Jessica, instead of not advisable, I think she belongs in B tier, and the reason is because I'm not sure if this is being nerfed or what, but the Sea Serpent Raid actually does not remove the debuffs or negative status when at the start of the turn, right? So it only removes the stats down, which makes Jessica a lot more viable. Of course, with the HP bars, right? Once you lose the HP bars, once you renew a HP bar, the negative status are all going to be gone. So that is also why she's not in A tier. She's more of a B tier character. Still very strong, just that without the poison stacks on the opponent, a lot of times you cannot maintain the additional damage that comes from her inside, hence she's going to be in B tier, and also she's not that single target focused for this raid, so that's why she's in B tier. Next is going to be Balloon Party. Balloon Party easy A tier. This is the premier healer if you do not have two fairy, and there are very little options when it comes to healers for this raid, hence you really want to use Balloon Party, which heals based on HP loss, and for difficult content like this, she's going to be very relevant. Also doesn't take extra damage since she's not beast type. Next is going to be Centurion, and I'm going to put her in not advisable. Rather frail character, I think at max only like 5.9k HP, and also on top of the fact that she is of the Beast Afflictor, she's going to take extra damage, and being a AoE focus, right, she's not going to be ideal for Sea Serpent Raid. Next up, Regulus, easy S tier, one of the best star units, although she does get a bit of problems when it comes to clearing the Frostbite stacks because she wants to act every other turn, right? So you can't really make her act all the time to cancel off the Frostbite stacks, but I don't think that is going to be a big problem. Her DPS is going to be good. Her ultimate serves as a good sustain factor as well, so definitely S tier. Moving on, 6. You are going to be able to use 6 for Sea Serpent Raid, although you have to wait for his banner, but the raids actually last until the end of the patch, hence I'm going to consider him in. And also 6 is extremely good S's of S tiers because he has a straight up cleanse, right? A 1-star cleanse with his buff cut. So if you get frostbitten and you are going to die, just have to use the buff cut. Of course, if RNG does not forbid, you are going to get frostbitten on 6, but if you run both 6 and 2 fairy, you're going to have multiple options to cleanse, so you should be very safe over there. And of course, the passive buffs that he provides and also the debuffs that he can provide is going to be invaluable, especially when this is a highly damaging fight, so you need the sustain factor and also a very tough DPS check, so you definitely want the debuffs as well. Definitely the strongest of strongest for Sea Serpent Raid. Next is going to be New Babel. New Babel is going to be easy B tier, not very good honestly, even though she has follow-up attacks. The reason is because her follow-up attacks, right, is based on who attacks her, and most of the time the boss, right, doesn't really attack that much. It's mostly the tentacle, so you are trying to, if you want to remove the sturdiness factors on the stacks on the boss, you can't really do so reliably. And also she's not the tankier, so despite that, she's not star afflictor, so she doesn't get the afflictors bonuses from the environment conditions, hence she's not going to be the best. If you want a real follow-up user, probably want to go with Lydia instead of New Babel, so this is why she's going to be in B tier, also not very AP generous, right? Next is going to be our Medicine Pocket. So Medicine Pocket, I'm going to put her in NA tier. I don't think that she's going to be that good as a healer when compared to, of course, our 2 fairy and our Balloon Party, because of the fact that she's of Beast Afflictor. She's going to take extra damage, but she does have sturdiness, so it does help a bit, which is also why I'm going to put her in A tier. And the fact is, this raid, right, conditions really need you to have a healer. If you don't have one of those, right, you really want to use Medicine Pocket, which is also why her rank is this high. Overall sturdiness is her main factor. Her healing capabilities are not bad as well. The only problem is she lacks a offensive capability like 2 fairy, so that is why she's in A tier, just like Balloon Party, but slightly weaker in my opinion. Next is going to be Charlie, and Charlie over here, if you have her at P5, of course she's going to be an easy S tier as well, despite the fact that she's relatively frail. However, I'm going to just say that if it's P2 and below, I think you can just put her at top of A tier. And the reason is because despite the fact that she has high attack, she is very frail. So if she gets hit a couple times, unluckily gets targeted by the boss, you are going to die very relatively easily. Next is going to be A Knight. For A Knight, I'm going to put him at the end of A tier, and for this raid itself, people might think that he is not exactly that good, but I beg to differ. With the little tentacles, right, you can actually time your ultimate to gain the rousing morale. Helps a lot with hitting those DPS checks that you really need to pass to get your triple S, your double S, whatever that is. And also, A Knight does provide quite good DPS on himself because his insight is based on the HP bar, and for the later HP bars, right, it gets longer and longer. So for the 100k one, once he's below, like the boss is below 50k, you have a lot of chance to DPS while utilizing max potential of the insight 3 of the A Knight. So I really think that this is going to be a great carry if you, or sub carry, right, if you do not have one of the premier ones. Next is going to be Sotheby. I'm going to put Sotheby in B tier, and unlike the other healer, she's really not that good. And also her negative status is going to be cleansed by the HP bars changing, which, like I mentioned, right, is also a detriment for Jessica as well. Hence, I'm going to put her in B tier with all of those combined factors. Not really the best healer, not really a good DPS user, so really a net loss if you were to use her overall, right? But of course, if you have no choice, just use her. Next up, two very easy S tier, right? Do you expect less? She is Star Reflector. She gains all of the environment bonuses for the attack, for the defense, and also on top of that, she does have the AP generous factor when it comes to the debuffs. She can also cleanse for these frostbites, right? So really good overall single target ultimate as well, makes her even better for hitting those DPS checks. And lastly, her crit heals are quite notable, so if you really need heals on top of her passive heals, right, you can definitely do so as well. So overall, just a all-rounded factor for Sea Serpent Raid. You want to use her if you have her. Okay, next is going to be Melania. Melania is going to be A tier, single target, very strong, especially for 30 man or 30 round battle. She ramps up, and for the later half, she's going to do a lot of damage. Although she is Beast Reflectors, but she boasts relatively good sustainability with her 6200 HP at max, and also her AoE card can actually leech life. So this is why I think she's relevant, even though she's being countered, right? But she still deals normal damage, since in Reverse 1999, the Afflictors bonuses don't affect you negatively when it comes to dealing damage. Hence, I think A tier is going to be very good for her. She can be a sub DPS if you have just 37 like me. I use 37, and I can also use Melania in the same team to substantiate the DPS that you lack if you do not have other star options. So overall, very good unit and a single target queen in raid scenarios. Moving on, next we have Anli, and for Anli, I think she's an easy S tier. She provides buffs with one card, and also she doesn't get countered by this raid since she's plant Afflictors, and notably she has an AoE ultimate that can also hit the rest of the tentacles, and on top of that, the upgrade cards is a most notable fact, right? Helps to eliminate a lot of the problems when it comes to dealing damage, especially when you can swap using the Bulletin Muxi change, so that you can swap her 2-star cards or 3-star cards into other DPS cards, and that is going to help you have a better chance of scoring those DPS checks. So sustainability wise and offensive capabilities both compound in one unit, and on top of that, the AP generous factor of upgrading cards is going to make her an S tier for this raid. Next is going to be our Pickles. For Pickles, I'm going to put him in A tier, and the reason is because this raid, like I mentioned for regulars, right, don't really favor AFKing. So if you AFK too much, there's a chance that you cannot cleanse your frostbite stack, so it kind of interferes with his kit quite a bit. However, that being said, his damage increase is good for eliminating the damage reductions that the boss is going to gain throughout the HP bars, which is why he's going to still be a premier choice as a damage increaser for this particular raid, and doesn't get counted because he's mineral Afflictors. Next is going to be Tenon, and Tenon is going to be not advisable. Similar to Centurion, my Beast Afflictors cannot counted, and also she has a clunky kit in my opinion. I don't really like her one-turn shield, and the debuffs itself are not going to be good for this raid since the boss cleans the stats down every start of the round, so she's practically useless for this raid. Next is going to be our Necrologist. For Necrologist, I'm going to put her in high B tier, and Necrologist is really decent over here, especially for 4-man raids, because she gives that high amounts of damage increase just like Pickles, just that she is not AP generous, and on top of that, she has that extra life that she gives with the prayer, and it will come in handy especially to the later parts, whereby if you accidentally get frostbitten on one of your units, and that being Tooth Fairy, right, she can save Tooth Fairy using the prayer, and the 65% damage hit on the Tooth Fairy can instantly be eliminated because Tooth Fairy has the extra life. The only problem is that she is not AP generous, so for DPS checks, not exactly the best, but if you have good like other star type units to supplement on the DPS front, she is going to be a good addition to the team overall. Next is going to be Diggers, not advisable. Overall, all of these stats down units you really don't want for this particular raid because the boss cleansed it at the start of the round, so I don't want to say anymore. Soneto is going to be a good B tier. Just like Anli, you have the 1-card increase for the damage dealt as well as the damage taken reduction. Hence, you really want to use her if you do not have any other options. It's mostly for beginners, but also notably, right, because with the release of Chapter 5, you're going to already have a P5 Soneto for free. So basically, this also increases her stock a bit, despite the fact that you're not going to want to rely on her heavily for DPS, but her ultimate does decent damage with the P5, and like I mentioned, the buff cards add a bit of the sustainability and adds a bit of the damage dealt. So overall, very good unit, B tier. Next is going to be Baby Blue, same thing as Diggles. You don't really want to use her despite the fact that she is Star Afflictors. Debuffs not going to be good because it's not going to be sustaining for 2 rounds, right? So the utility is going to be decreased. You don't really want to use her. Next is going to be Voyager. Voyager easy S tier. A lot of Genesis damage benefits from the Star Afflictors environment conditions, and also have sturdiness, which can help you a lot in surviving. Hence, very good unit overall. I think I've touched a lot on Voyager for Sea Serpent Raid. I don't want to say more. Next is going to be Lilia. Lilia is extremely good for Sea Serpent Raid because of her follow-up attacks that can help to eliminate the stacks of sturdiness that the tentacles provide to the boss, or the boss provides to themselves if they do not take damage. Ideally, you want the boss to take damage every single turn. Hence, Lilia is going to help eliminate all those sturdiness stacks, and she does pretty decent DPS, and on top of that, if you use 37, she can help to support 37 on her follow-up, so easy S tier for Lilia. Moving on, next we're going to have our Eternity. Eternity is not advisable despite the fact that she is not being counted. She's a mineral type. She does very mediocre DPS, especially in a single target focus environment. You really don't want Eternity to exist, and her low damage really doesn't help, right? You have so many other options that you can use, and there's no reason for you to use Eternity, honestly. Next is going to be our 37. 37, of course, one of the best for Sea Serpent Raid, given the fact that there is a 75% increase for Genesis damage. She is one of the easiest ways for you to get triple S as a free-to-play player if you just have her at P0 with the adequate support that she will need, of course. But regardless, right, her follow-up attacks can help to clear off the tentacles. She's going to benefit if you support her with Lilia to get more follow-up attacks. Her by herself is going to do a lot of damage, both AoE and single target to the boss. Overall, very good unit, and on top of that, her ultimate provides the attack bonuses to her allies, which makes her an overall good unit for Sea Serpent Raid. Next is going to be Blonnie. For Blonnie, I'm going to put her in low A tier. Honestly, I don't have Blonnie, and I have not yet tested Blonnie, not seen that much on Sea Serpent Raid, but just judging off her kit, I can tell you that Blonnie is going to fare pretty well. Not as good as Charlie, because just from a stats perspective, Blonnie does not have as much attack as Charlie, but she does have those environment bonuses that she's going to enjoy for being Star Afflictors. Hence, you really do want to use her if you do not have any of the other options. The only thing that I will say here is that outside of Sea Serpent Raid, you probably don't want to use her, so it's really up to you whether you want to invest her to a usable level, right? I.e., for DPS, you probably need her to be at R10 to be usable or to be good. Hence, right, I would say that although she is, in my opinion, A tier if invested, she might not be one of the targets you want to invest in because of her utility outside of Sea Serpent Raid. Next is going to be Drovis. Drovis easy, not advisable because the boss cannot be petrified. Hence, the entire purpose of Drovis is being cut by half, and her damage is not exactly the best. She doesn't have a single target focus kit as well. Overall, not advisable. Last two, Charmaine is going to be not advisable, Beast being countered, and also the fact that debuffs the stats down, like I mentioned, not good for Sea Serpent Raid. And lastly, Beacon, our 7-star god, is going to fall in the not advisable tier. So similarly to the fate of other debuffers, she's not that good in Sea Serpent Raid due to the cleansing effect of the boss. And just as a comparison to 6, right? 6 applies all of those debuffs as a passive, as a bonus. So even if those get cleansed eventually, it doesn't really matter, right? Because his main capabilities lies with the buffs as well. But for Beacon, you have to actually actively apply similarly to all of these debuffers. So you're going to waste your AP because they are going to be at half effectiveness. Now, of course, at the end of the day, this only targets particularly to the Sea Serpent Raid. So if you want to know general meta teams that you can use everywhere, definitely check out this video. I'll see you guys over there. This is Corky Gachas, signing off.